Picture music this. You're standing in your kitchen, opening your refrigerator door, expecting to find fresh, vibrant foods ready to nourish your body and delight your senses. You trust that cold, humming appliance to keep your groceries safe, preserving their flavor and nutrition. But what if I told you that for some foods, your fridge is doing the exact opposite? What if it's quietly transforming your favorite ingredients into less tasty, less nutritious, and even potentially harmful versions of themselves? It's a jarring thought, especially for those of us over 60 who are focused on staying healthy and making every meal count. Today, we're diving deep into 9 everyday foods you should never store in the refrigerator. These aren't obscure ingredients you rarely use. They're staples like potatoes, bread, tomatoes, and avocados that you probably have in your kitchen right now. Storing them in the cold can trigger surprising changes from nutrient loss to the creation of compounds that could impact your gut, heart, and even brain health. This isn't about complicated science or hard-to-follow rules. It's about practical, easy-to-understand tips that anyone can use to make their food taste better, last longer, and support their well-being. Every fact we share is backed by rigorous peer-reviewed research. Tell us where you're watching from, your age, and whether you've ever noticed your food tasting off or losing its texture after being in the fridge. We're reading every single comment and responding with personalized advice to help you get the most out of your groceries. Ready to rethink how you store your food? Let's dive into the first food on our list, and trust me, it's going to surprise you. First up, potatoes. These versatile spuds are a cornerstone of so many meals. Think creamy mashed potatoes, crispy fries, or a hearty potato soup, but if you're tossing them in the fridge to keep them fresh, you're making a mistake that could affect more than just their taste. When potatoes are stored in the cold, typically around 40 degrees FF in a refrigerator, their starches begin to break down into sugars through a process called cold-induced sweetening. This isn't just a minor shift in flavor. It's a chemical change with real consequences. When you cook these sugary potatoes, especially at high temperatures like frying, roasting, or baking, those sugars react with amino acids to form a compound called acrylamide. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen, meaning it's something you want to minimize in your diet. A comprehensive study from the University of Idaho tested over 500 potato samples across multiple varieties and found that potatoes stored at fridge temperatures pull the sugar, and it happens faster than you might expect. This sugar spike doesn't just increase health risks, it also changes the texture and flavor of your potatoes. Ever wonder why your mashed potatoes sometimes taste oddly sweet or have a gritty, unpleasant texture? The fridge is likely to blame, as the cold breaks down the potato's cell structure, leaving it less starchy and more granular. So, how should you store potatoes to keep them safe and delicious? The key is a cool, dark place, ideally between 45 and 50. A pantry, cellar, or even a cardboard box in a closet works perfectly. Darkness is crucial because exposure to light triggers the production of solanine, a toxic compound that turns potatoes green and bitter. Solanine isn't just unpleasant, it can cause nausea or worse in high amounts. Use a paper bag or a breathable basket to allow air circulation, and avoid plastic bags which trap moisture and promote rotting. Here's a pro tip. Keep potatoes away from onions, as both release gases that can make the other spoil faster. Store them at least 3 feet apart to avoid this. With proper storage, potatoes can stay fresh and flavorful for up to 3 months compared to just a couple of weeks in the fridge before they start to degrade. By making this simple change, you'll save money, reduce food waste, and enjoy better tasting potatoes in every dish. Next, let's talk about bread. Whether it's a crusty artisan loaf, a soft sandwich bread, or a hearty whole grain variety, most of us instinctively pop our bread in the fridge to extend its shelf life. But here's the surprising truth. Refrigeration makes bread go stale faster. It sounds counterintuitive, but the science is crystal clear. The cold temperature in your fridge causes the starch molecules in bread to crystallize through a process called retrogradation. This pushes out moisture, leaving your bread hard, crumbly, and dry. Researchers at the Institute of Food Technologists conducted a detailed study measuring the firmness of breadcrumbs over time. They found that bread stored at fridge temperatures around 40 degrees FF stale 6 times faster than bread kept at room temperature, becoming noticeably tough in just 3 days. Meanwhile, bread stored properly can stay soft and fresh for up to a week. The cold doesn't just ruin the texture, it also dulls the flavor. Bread contains volatile organic compounds that give it that irresistible fresh baked aroma. These compounds break down rapidly in the fridge, leaving your bread tasting flat or even like cardboard. If you've ever pulled a slice from the fridge and wondered why it lacked that bakery fresh taste, this is why. So, what's the best way to store bread? Keep it at room temperature, ideally between 60 and 70 in a bread box or a paper bag. These containers allow just enough air circulation to prevent mold while maintaining the humidity needed to keep the bread soft. If you can't finish a loaf within a week, don't refrigerate it, freeze it instead. Freezing halts the staling process without damaging the bread structure, unlike refrigeration. Slice the bread first, then store it in an airtight freezer bag. When you're ready to eat, pop the frozen slices straight into the toaster or oven. They'll come out tasting almost as good as fresh. Just avoid letting them thaw at room temperature, as that can introduce moisture and make them soggy. By storing your bread correctly, you'll enjoy every slice at its peak flavor and texture, and you'll waste less of that delicious loaf. Now let's turn to honey, a food so remarkable it's been found perfectly edible in 3,000-year-old Egyptian tombs. Honey is nature's ultimate preservative thanks to its high sugar content and low water activity, which create an environment where bacteria and mold can't survive. This is why honey is one of the few foods that truly never spoils when stored properly, but when you put it in the fridge, you're undoing its natural magic. The cold causes honey to crystallize rapidly, turning that smooth, golden liquid into a grainy, hard mass that's tough to scoop, spread, or dissolve in your tea. While crystallization isn't harmful, it makes honey less enjoyable and harder to use. More concerning, the fridge introduces moisture into the equation. Every time you open a cold honey jar in a warm room, condensation forms inside, diluting the honey's natural preservatives. A study from the National Honey Board found that honey stored below 50 lows up to 35% of its antimicrobial properties within weeks. These properties, driven by compounds like hydrogen peroxide and phenolic acids, are what make honey a natural antibiotic used for centuries to treat wounds and boost immunity. The cold also disrupts honey's complex flavor, which comes from over 180 different compounds that create its rich, nuanced taste. Refrigeration causes these compounds to break down unevenly, making your premium raw honey taste more like cheap syrup. To keep honey at its best, store it in a tightly sealed container at room temperature. Between 64 and 75 degrees F, away from direct sunlight, which can degrade its quality over time. If your honey does crystallize, don't throw it out. Just place the jar in warm water, not hot, to preserve nutrients, and stir gently until it returns to its liquid form. Here's an interesting tidbit. Darker honeys like buckwheat or manuka have higher antioxidant content than lighter ones like clover, but they're also more sensitive to cold. Proper storage ensures you get the full health benefits and flavor from every spoonful. Whether you're drizzling it on yogurt or stirring it into a soothing tea, coffee lovers, brace yourselves. This one's a game changer. If you're storing your coffee beans or grounds in the fridge, you're sabotaging your morning brew. Coffee is incredibly porous, acting like a sponge that soaks up odors and flavors from everything around it. Think about what's in your fridge: leftover takeout, pungent cheese, maybe a container of garlic, heavy dip. Your coffee is absorbing those smells, which is why your morning cup might taste strange or off. But odor absorption is just the start. The fridge's constant temperature fluctuations every time you open the door cause condensation on the beans, speeding up their aging process and even risking mold growth. A study from the Specialty Coffee Association found that refrigerated coffee loses 60% of its aromatic compounds, the oils that give coffee its rich, complex flavor, within just 1 week. These oils also solidify in the cold, making them harder to extract during brewing, resulting in a weak, lackluster cup. So, how do you keep your coffee tasting like it came from a barista? Store it in an airtight, opaque container at room temperature, as sunlight degrades coffee quality, and it should minimize exposure to oxygen, coffee's other enemy. Buy only what you'll use in 2 weeks, as freshness starts to fade once the bag is opened. If you need to store coffee longer, the freezer is a better option than the fridge. But there's a catch. Freeze it only once. Divide your coffee into weekly portions in airtight freezer bags and take out only what you need. Refreezing causes moisture damage that ruins the beans for good. By storing your coffee properly, you'll savor every sip with all the bold flavors and aromas intact, making your daily ritual something to look forward to. Garlic is next, and this one's especially important for those who rely on its health benefits. Garlic is a powerhouse packed with allicin, a compound that supports heart health, fights bacteria, and even has antiviral properties. But when you store garlic in the fridge, you're cutting those benefits in half. The cold, moist environment causes garlic to sprout, producing bitter green shoots that can cause digestive discomfort. More alarmingly, the fridge's humidity encourages mold growth, including types that produce mycotoxins, harmful compounds linked to serious health risks. Research from the University of California, Davis, showed that refrigerated garlic loses 50% of its allicin in content within 10 days, stripping away much of its medicinal value. The cold also breaks down garlic's cell walls, turning it mushy and nearly impossible to chop cleanly. Ever try mincing refrigerated garlic and end up with a sticky paste? Store garlic in a cool, dry place with good air circulation, like a mesh bag or basket at 665 degrees FF. Avoid plastic containers which trap moisture and keep garlic away from sunlight or heat sources like the stove, which can trigger sprouting. Whole heads of garlic can last up to 6 months this way. But once you break them apart, use the cloves within 10 days for the best flavor and benefits. Here's a cooking tip. Room temperature garlic releases its essential oils more readily, giving your dishes a bolder, more vibrant flavor than cold garlic ever could. Bananas, those sunny tropical fruits, are another food that suffers in the fridge. The cold causes what scientists call chilling injury, where the cell membranes rupture, leading to a black, mushy mess. This isn't just about looks, the damage goes deeper. A study from the Queensland Department of Agriculture found that bananas stored below 56 degrees F lose 80% of their vitamin C content. The blackened skin signals dead tissue, which can harbor bacteria or mold, even if it's not visible yet. Store bananas at room temperature between 56 and 70 degrees F, ideally on a banana hook to prevent bruising. To control ripening, place them in a paper bag with an apple to speed it up, or wrap the stems in plastic to slow it down, reducing ethylene gas release by up to 40%. If you must store ripe bananas, refrigerate them for no more than 2 days or peel, and freeze them for smoothies where their creamy texture adds a rich ice cream-like consistency without needing extra ice. Onions are a kitchen staple, but refrigerating them is one of the biggest storage mistakes you can make. The fridge's high humidity, around 95%, causes onions to absorb moisture, creating a perfect environment for mold, including dangerous black mold that produces aflatoxins, some of the most carcinogenic substances known. A Texas A&M University study found that refrigerated onions have 2 170% more sugar after 2 weeks, altering their flavor from savory to overly sweet and making their texture soft and mushy. This sugar spike also prevents proper caramelization, so your dishes like French onion soup or saw-eyed onions won't have that rich golden depth. Store whole onions in a cool, dry place like a pantry or cellar at 45-55 dBF in a mesh bag or basket for air circulation. Keep them away from potatoes and sunlight to prevent sprouting. Cut onions, however, should be refrigerated in an airtight container and used within 7 days as their exposed surfaces are prone to bacteria. By storing whole onions properly, you'll preserve their crisp texture and bold flavor for up to 2 months. Now, let's talk about tomatoes, the food that might shock you the most. Refrigerating tomatoes doesn't just dull their taste, it changes them at a genetic level. A groundbreaking study from the University of Florida examined over 25,000 tomato genes and found that temperatures below 54 BRF deactivate the genes responsible for producing flavor compounds. This damage is permanent. Even warming the tomatoes won't bring back their taste. The cold also reduces lycopene, a powerful antioxidant linked to heart health and cancer prevention, by up to 65% and destroys enzymes needed for your body to absorb it. Ice crystals in the fridge puncture the tomato cell walls, creating a mealy, grainy texture. Store tomatoes at room temperature, stem side down between 55 and 70 degrees F in indirect light to maintain their nutrients. Avoid plastic bags which trap ethylene gas and speed up rotting. Use ripe tomatoes within 3 to 5 days or make sauce and freeze it to preserve lycopene, which is actually more bioavailable in cooked tomato products. By keeping tomatoes out of the fridge, you'll enjoy their juicy, vibrant flavor and full nutritional power. Finally, we've saved the most critical for last: avocados. These creamy, nutrient-packed fruits are loaded with over 20 essential nutrients, including healthy fats like oleic acid, which are vital for brain health, especially as we age. But refrigeration triggers a process called lipid peroxidation, where those fats oxidize into harmful free radicals. A Stanford University study found that refrigerated avocados lose 90% of their antioxidant activity, including vitamins E and C, within just 4 days. The cold also activates an enzyme called polyphenol oxidase, which causes browning and breaks down the fruit cell walls, turning its smooth texture into a stringy, watery mess. Your guacamole won't stand a chance. Store unripe avocados at room temperature 6,575 degrees in a bowl with air circulation. To speed ripening, place them in a paper bag with a banana to boost ethylene gas. Ripe avocados can be refrigerated for 2 to 3 days max, but it's better to buy them at different ripeness stages for a steady supply. For cut avocados, keep the pit in, brush the flesh with lemon juice, and store with a piece of onion in an airtight container for up to 2 days. The onion's sulfur compounds prevent browning without affecting taste. Your refrigerator is a powerful tool, but it's not the answer for every food. These 9 foods, potatoes, bread, honey, coffee, garlic, bananas, onions, tomatoes, and avocados, lose their flavor, texture, and health benefits when stored in the cold. By keeping them at room temperature in the right conditions, you'll save money, reduce food waste, and ensure every bite is as delicious and nutritious as nature intended. Proper storage isn't just about taste. It's about giving your body the nutrients it needs to thrive, especially in your golden years. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Have you been refrigerating them for years without knowing the impact? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We're excited to hear your stories and offer tailored tips to make your kitchen a healthier, tastier place.